Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran, and today we're going to be taking a look at a drone weapon that we're seeing more and more used in Ukraine, and I'm going to share with you guys why I think it actually was the secret to the Ukrainian attack on the Russian Crimean airbase. But let's get into it. I'll show you what I'm talking about. This is, of course, called Ukrainian kamikaze drone destroys Russian surveillance tower. Don't worry, YouTube censors. It's just a drone. It's a robot. But let's check it out. Okay, so I think this is really neat. So according to this video, right, it comes to us from The Sun via Third Force, via Storyful, because, you know, everyone steals everyone's content. But I'm obviously guilty of it too, but hopefully I add enough commentary that you guys find it interesting. This is actually an interesting little, looks like a behind-the-lines communication array. And as you guys know, communications in the Russian military has been kind of a disaster in this war, right? When they initially invaded, of course, there were huge shortages of radios. Russians were relying on using their own cell phones to communicate, and then the Ukrainians blocked all Russian numbers on their network, meaning that the Russians were reduced to stealing cell phones from Ukrainian civilians to communicate with each other. They would also use unencrypted radio so that random listeners could just dial in and listen to Russian radio, and trolls would start to broadcast like goofy messages and stuff. It was bizarre. So obviously Russia's efforts to establish some sort of communication array are pretty tremendous. And this looks like, I'm going to say this looks like a cell phone tower, basically. Then that's probably what it is. It's probably functioning as, it may even literally be a cell phone tower set up so that Russian units can use their cell phones to communicate with each other. It looks like it's powered by some solar panels. It may also be a relay, which when you put a relay on a hilltop, will allow units, radios to bounce to the relay site and then continue to project out onto the battlefield. The U.S. Army has some, but ours are like camouflaged at all. Like they're tactical. They're tactical equipment. They're not red and white, which I guess is, I mean, it's to prevent aircraft from hitting them. I understand, but come on, guys, like, come on. You gotta at least try. Anyway, let's check it out. That's why I think it's honestly probably a civilian antenna that's been instructed. The company was probably instructed to build it in Ukraine, right? Also very low security. They have a small fence. That's it. That's what's carrying this. So if we look carefully, we, I think, can see the drone on the approach. There it is. Okay, wait, let's see if we can back it up and see it. So, what I really think is interesting, what is most interesting about this, okay. All right, we're backing it up. 1, 2, 3. You know, I gotta say, I don't really see it. Yeah, I mean, it must be like right here. But man, I don't see this at all. Do you guys? So, okay, I'll say this. I don't know for sure that this is a kamikaze drone. I think it is. I think it is. It seems silly to exaggerate this, and I don't think it's like a timed explosive or anything like that. I think it's a kamikaze drone. But look at how small the charge is. This is what's sort of fascinating to me, is that, look, one, the drone is so small, we can't even see it. And this is shot from, you know, a few hundred meters away, but you have to think, even a commercial drone like this big would be pretty easy to see. So that tells us that the drone is probably like smaller than a dinner plate. And it looks like it's carrying a pretty potent but not especially large charge. You can see it's blown right here, attacking one of the struts. And someone gave them some very good advice, because you can see the struts taken out and the structure is starting to lean. It's starting to lean, and once the lean starts going, it's all over. Somebody is not going to be able to call mom for her birthday. And what's the point of this? Why do I bring in this not very dramatic video? Is because it illustrates something really important. When we looked at the airbase, the attack on the Crimean airbase, you know, one of the things that I theorized was that it was done by teams of special forces operators. And one thesis that was actually shared in the comments that I think might actually have been true is that the Ukrainian Special Forces team used kamikaze drones to deliver small, almost like mini surgical strikes on the aircraft and key facilities. And this would make perfect sense, right? You know, I've never seen, I had seen kamikaze drones, certainly, we'd seen some video, but I had never seen them used this small and with this level of precision against static targets. It's a really new way of using them, and it seems really, really effective. So imagine, of course, you have aircraft that are parked, you have a munitions dump. I don't know if I would get close enough to a munitions dump to blow it up with a drone like this, but the being able to be ultra precise, right? This is more hitting an individual strut of a communications tower is more precise than even US made smart bombs. US made smart bombs are going to be, you know, between 1 and 500 pounds, and they are going to be precise, but they're precise to probably 5 to 7 feet of accuracy, which is perfect for that level of strike. But if you can be more precise with your attacks, you can use smaller munitions. And I think that's what this kamikaze drone is doing, right? It's identifying, it's not just attacking, it's not just throwing a 500-pound or even a 100-pound bomb at this strut here, or at this facility. It's actually throwing a probably half-pound or 1-pound bomb at one individual leg of this antenna, causing it to collapse. And so I think what happened in Crimea is perhaps that there was never a team that got inside the base. They may have just had 17, 18, 19, 20 of these drones and flew them in, knew exactly where the fuel tanks or the avionics or the munitions or the fuel was in that base, and then struck each individual plane and its site that's most vulnerable, the aircraft equivalent of hitting it right on the leg. So that's why I think this kamikaze drone thing, right, we've seen some footage of them being used already, but I think they're being used in a much more tactical, much more effective way now. And I'm fascinated by the idea that these weapons can be just so incredibly effective. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining me. Let me know in the comments if you think that this is indeed the work of drones, or if you think this might be some sort of bait and switch where there's actually explosives being planted by human beings, a la, you know, classic World War II Special Forces stuff. Anyway, of course, if there's other videos you want me to check out, and thanks to my patrons of Patreon, where I react to the videos that are just too spicy, too non-monetizable for YouTube. Thanks, my Lieutenant tier patrons. I appreciate you guys. Catch you in the next one.